guys, welcome to ETland. If you have been following me for a few years, you know that every year this time I will consider to buy a new PC handheld, and I have prepared a budget for this year's handheld. So I'm going to talk about that a little bit. So first of all, my first PC handheld was GPD Win 3. It was actually a good experience for me to set a good criteria for choosing a good PC handheld. So first of all, when I got my GPD Win 3, it actually had a lot of software bugs. For example, I really can't switch from mouse mode to gamepad mode, and sometimes it was not able to turn on. There were all sort of these tiny things that make made the experience very bad, and the ergonomics was very bad, that it feels like a break, and I was not very comfortable to hold it. So rather than using it as a handheld, I use it as a desktop, and it was super heavy. That was probably because of the ergonomics. Apart from the aesthetic of this handheld was totally not my type, the fan noise was super loud, and it was very difficult to replace the SSD. Not to mention that there was a connection problem with the USB, so whenever I use the USB port, sometimes it just gave me some errors. And if I have to get it repaired, I have to send it back to China, and I don't think that is very feasible for me. 1 year later, I bought AYANEO Air as my second PC handheld. I still think it is the cutest PC handheld on earth. I still use it every day. I still love it, but there are some problems with it, mainly with IR space. I'm going to show you a clip of the problem. For example, when I am not using my device and I am not getting it to sleep mode for like 20 minutes or so, it will get into the BIOS for no reason, and it will stuck there, keep on vibrating, and get very hot. So I emailed AYANEO and asked them if there's anything I can do with it, what's wrong with that, and they said, oh, it's probably something wrong with your hard drive, and actually it was not. After a few updates of iSpace, that problem was fixed, and I was quite sure about that it was the problem from iSpace, because if I use auto mouse mover, that will not get me the problem. So there was some problem with iSpace, and there are still many problems with iSpace. And well, of course I'm happy to see that they are going to have iSpace too, but I still have some doubts in their software. Same as GPD Win 3, the fan noise can get very loud, especially when I play some more intense games or some advanced emulation. It gets super loud and it gets super hot on the screen, so the heat dissipation is not good as well. When you play some heavier games, you will feel the hot air coming from your device, and the screen will burn. And sometimes I just worry that my device will blow up. And well, one more thing is not powerful enough. Well, of course, like 90% of the games in my library are good to go, but for the other 10%, for example, for some more difficult to emulate games and some AAA games, I sometimes want to play them, and I just find that it is not very feasible on the air. The other concern I had with GPD Win 3 and AYANEO Air was about the shipment. Both devices were shipped from China, and they were backed from Indiegogo. And the thing that concerned me was that sometimes they will got delayed from sending, and they have those track number problems, and also they would be stuck at the custom for a while, and I have no way to know whether I have to pay the tax or not until I receive the device. When I received AYANEO Air, I have to pay extra tax that I didn't know, and it ended up being more expensive. Last but not least, I really concerned about the repair of both devices. Um, if you have to repair them, since I backed both of them from Indiegogo, I'll have to send it back to China directly. There is no guarantee that you can really send it back and receive back your device, and it is very troublesome. It costs you extra money for shipments, and it costs you money, of course, for the repair. So, I would prefer something that I could find and repair it within the country I live in rather than sending it out to other country. So back to our discussion. AYANEO Geek 1S or ROG Ally. Let's start with AYANEO Geek 1S first. So let's talk about the good things on the Geek. First of all, the ergonomics will be very good. I have been using the AYANEO Air, and I understand that AYANEO has been doing a good job on designing the ergonomics of the devices. Second, the price. Um, we're not going to talk about the other price tags. We are just going to talk about the early bird price. It is basically the same price as the ROG Ally, and it has a free shipping, so we don't have to worry about extra shipping fee, but there may be an extra tax required. Third, just like I mentioned, two USB-C 4 ports, which are very useful actually, and they are using the M.22280 SSD, which is very accessible and cheaper than the one using on the ROG Ally, and it is very powerful. According to Dave to this channel, these 7840U chips can actually outperform the Ally in lower wattage. However, we also see that there is a drastic improvement in the ROG Ally after the software updates. So if there is a continued update for the software and optimization, there is a great opportunity that the ROG Ally is going to outperform the Geek 1S in the future. In addition, the Geek 1S has a larger battery in comparison to the one on the Ally. The 1S has 50.25 watt hour, and the Ally only has 40 watt per hour. Also, on the Geek 1S, it uses Hall sensor, joystick, and Hall trigger. And last but not least, the design of the Geek is wonderful. I really like the design, it looks very neat. Now let's move on to the Ally. First of all, ergonomics of the Ally is very good based on all those reviews on YouTube. The price, which is the same as the early bird price of the Geek 1S, and the weight is like 50 grams lighter than that of the Geek 1S, which is great. Based on what I've learned from my Win 3, I know that if the device is relatively heavy, it will be great if you can have a device that has good ergonomics and a little bit larger than those smaller devices, because the weight will be able to equally spread throughout the device rather than being like a brick. Just like I've mentioned, this chip is very powerful, and since we can see Asus has been updating the drivers and the software to provide a better user experience, it is very hopeful that in the future they will do more optimization in order to support their customers, and by that, in the future, it is very likely that the Ally will outperform the Geek 1S. The other good things about a handheld released by a big company is that they are already produced and ready to ship. You don't need to wait like the Steam Deck, or you don't have to worry about the device being cancelled like those AYN devices. And it's not an Indiegogo campaign, so you don't have to see when some people receive the device and you're not receiving what you ordered it earlier. Those kind of things are not going to happen. And I don't know if this is just happening in Japan. uh, when you buy the Ally in Japan, there is a 30 days return assurances. So if you have any problems with the device, for example, there it is malfunction or something wrong with it, you can return it for free, and that is assured. And that gives me a very strong, secured impression about the company. Moreover, we can get our device repaired within the country, so you don't have to worry about your device lost in on the road, or not properly sent back to the company for repair. And I quite like the design, although I think the design of the Geek 1S is better than that of the Ally. There is one thing very tricky. The early bird price only available for black of the Geek 1S, which is not something I prefer and not something most of the people prefer. They would love the white color. Some of them want the purple one, but I think most of the people would like the white one, and that is not available at the lowest price. If you want that, you have to add another $100. So I think that would be a big turn off for most of the people. Last but not least, if you have ever owned an AYANEO device recently, you know that they try to cover all those screws and it gets very difficult to open up and replace your SSD. So, in this viewpoint, I think it would be a lot easier to replace the SSD on the Ally rather than the Geek 1S, although they claim that it is quite easy to disassemble, but I think it would be a lot easier on the Ally. In conclusion, I'm going to buy the Ally, but I'm not sure if I really like such a large device based on my preference. I mean, in general, I would prefer smaller devices. So I'm totally keeping my AYANEO Air. I still love it and I still use it every day. And I will see if it can replace all of my devices and be the all-in-one device I wanted. So if you are interested in the Ally, or you are interested in PC handhelds in general, you can keep an eye on my channel. I will keep on producing more videos on these two topics, and most importantly, I produce tutorials for using PC handhelds and stuff like that. I also do retro gamings and aesthetic things related to gaming. So if you're interested, please subscribe to my channel and I will try my best to upload more videos. So that's pretty much about today's video. Tell me about your opinions regarding these two devices in the comment section, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!